Good morning. I'm going to walk you through DBQ document analysis. This is the document that you're going to be using for this week and next week. Um, this is for the AP World Modern students. And we're going to take a look at the rubric again. We're going to take a look at how to mark up the page, how to give yourself some notes. If you're working from home, you might have to do this as a virtual instead of actually having the paper in front of you. If you have your own printer, that's great. But if you don't and you have to do this digitally, there's different ways you can mark up the text anyway, or you can add notes to the side, which I've shown you how to do in this class earlier, where you take the document and you kind of make notes to yourself on it. I'm going to go ahead and use my pencil and my highlighters today to kind of give you an idea of how it is that we're going to be using the documents in order to write an essay. Today, we're just going to analyze the documents. I'm only going to do a couple of them for you because I want you to do the rest on your own and for practice. But then we're also going to take a look at how might I use this document when I'm planning my essay. Okay, so just as a reminder, a review, the first thing I want to do is remember to remind myself, what does College Board want me to do with this? This is my DBQ, okay? You're going to write a historically defensible thesis or claim that establishes a line of reasoning. That means not only do you put your claim in there, but you're also going to kind of give a brief preview or a very, very short summary of how you established that or where you're going to go with your essay. At some point, you're going to describe a broader historical context. That's contextualization. That's your contextualization point. That just comes from knowledge of your background of what's going on in these documents. That does not come from these documents. You have to show College Board that you learned something in this class and you can add to the argument. Once you have your claim, you're going to support your argument using all the documents. It says all but one, but in this class, remember, we say all the documents just in case one of them falls short of the point. And then you can make sure that you get it anyway, just in case. So I require that you use all the documents. Use at least one additional piece of specific historic evidence. Remember that the SHE, the SHE, the specific historic evidence that is also in our SAQs. Beyond that's found in the document. If it's here, it's not a piece of evidence that's going to count for this point. You have to come up with something that from your own background knowledge. And then for at least 3 of the documents, explain how or why the document's point of view, purpose, historical situation, or audience is relevant to the argument that you are making. Okay, we're going to get into what that looks like. Use evidence to basically prove your argument. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to take a look at what College Board is asking me to do with these documents. So here's my prompt. Okay. Evaluate the extent to which. Now we know that that means you're going to have to pick sides. You're going to have to say one thing is greater than the other thing, or one thing had a bigger historical impact than another thing. And we have to prove it. But what's it asking you to do? So it's giving you 2 choices. Interactions between Muslims and non-Muslims, Muslim communities affected attitudes towards Islam or Islamic culture in the period 1200 to 1750. Okay, so interactions between Muslims and non-Muslims, that tells me right there, these documents are probably going to deal with Muslim cultures looking at Islamic culture and non-Muslim culture looking at Islamic culture, and how that affected attitudes towards Islam as a religion. So remember, Muslim is somebody who follows the Islamic culture, but the community itself doesn't necessarily have to be Islamic. What I mean by that is we have in this country a large population of Christian people, and so does, a lot of Europe. So when you look at the Christian nation, not everyone that's in the United States considers themselves a Christian, but we live in a Christian community for the most part. We're very diverse here, but we have lots going on. Same thing here. If you're dealing with Muslim and non-Muslim communities, you might be these documents might be showing us personal bias against Islamic peoples. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the documents and we're going to say, okay, is this dealing with Islamic or non-Islamic, Muslim or non-Muslim? Okay, attitudes towards Islamic peoples. So that's what I'm going to be looking for in my documents. So one of the things I want to do is just for myself, I'm going to highlight Muslim in green. And when I find evidence in my documents that goes with Muslim communities, I'm going to mark it green. And then non-Muslim communities, I'm going to mark blue. Okay. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And you can kind of break this down with whatever colors you want to use, but make sure you're consistent. Okay. So my first document, make sure you're always reading the source information first because it will tell you a lot. King Alfonso of Castile, Christian ruler during the Reconquista of Spain. And the document itself comes from the Law of 7 Parts. It's a legal code from 1260. Okay, I know that this is coming from a non-Muslim community, but it's going to be talking about Islamic culture, the laws of 7 parts, and the Reconquista of Spain. We know that the Spanish community pushed the Muslims back out of Spain after 700 years. Okay, this is dealing with that. Number 1, we decree that Muslims may live among our Christian subjects in the same way that Jews do, namely by observing their own law and not insulting ours. Okay, so this is kind of like an acceptance. They're saying, yeah, you can live here, but okay. Muslims, however, shall not have mosques in Christian towns, so we have some limits here, or perform their prayers publicly in the presence of Christians, another limit. Although the Muslims do not acknowledge the true religion, so they're referring to Christianity, so long as they live among Christians, their security and property shall not be infringed upon. So this is actually protecting the rights and property of non-Christian peoples, Muslims. Number 2, Christians should endeavor to convert the Muslims by kind words and not by violence or compulsion. Okay, so do not abuse them. Convert them kindly. Number 4, so obviously we've skipped one, and the others aren't listed. Men sometimes become insane and renounce the faith of our Lord Jesus Christ and convert to Islam. Okay. In all cases, such people are guilty of wickedness and treason. We order that those who are guilty of this crime shall forfeit all property and shall be put to death. All right, so interactions between Muslims and non-Muslims. What are the Muslims allowed to do here? Okay, the Muslims may live among Christians. Okay, they may observe their own law. Okay, however, it does continue to talk about what they're not allowed to do. They shall not have mosques in Christian towns or perform their prayers publicly in the presence of Christians. Okay. But we're also going to help protect them a little bit. So their property shall not be infringed on. So that's a good start. Now, what else? Christians are going to endeavor to convert Muslims. But I also want to add another note to myself here. By kind words and not by violence. So peacefully. Okay. Now here, I also I'm writing a note to myself, keeping the peace. Okay. Now this one's not so peaceful. Okay. Because if you convert, you shall forfeit all property and be put to death. That's not so peaceful. Okay. But what else is in here? Here we're saying this is an attitude. So remember, we're going back here, the attitudes towards Islam. Okay. So the attitude towards Islam is they're saying sometimes people become insane and convert to Islam. And if so, they are guilty of wickedness and treason. That's an attitude right there. Okay, it says it. Guilty of wickedness. And a note to myself, against law. Okay, so I want you to write all over this. I want you to write notes to yourself. I want you to break down the documents. You know, you're already pre-planning how you're going to use them to write your essay. Okay, now I'm going to skip ahead. Please also keep in mind that your document may go on to the next page. Okay, so this is all document 2 here. It's on 2 different pages, right? So let's take a look at document 2. All right. Document 2. A Mongol military commander in the Ilkhanate Mongol Khanate speech at a government council meeting as reported by a Muslim historian in 1310. Okay, so as reported by a Muslim historian. But the speech is a Mongol military commander, non-Muslim. Okay, and here's what the speech says. What is this that we have done, abandoning the Yasa, Mongol law, of Genghis Khan? You might have remembered that one as Genghis Khan. This is the actual Mongol spelling. And taking up the ancient right of the Arabs. Okay, now we can stop right there and think to ourselves just briefly, something has happened here, something historically happened. Some of the Mongol people have converted to Islam. Okay, I'm gonna write a note to myself. Mongols have converted to Islam. Just a little note to myself. We are now being asked to choose between 2 schools of Islamic law, but the choice of either of these 2 rights would be a disgrace and a dishonorable act. Okay, so that is explaining some attitude right there. Okay. So they are saying that choosing Islamic law choice is a disgrace and a dishonorable act. So this is showing us what we want to think about in our prompt. Attitude is Islam is dishonorable. Okay, very negative. We seek refuge in God from both of them. Let us return to the Mongol law of Genghis Khan. Okay. So as you're going through these, the other thing you want to think about is, okay, I'm going to start understanding the documents, and I'm going to start in my mind putting them in categories or creating something that shows the attitudes towards Islamic culture during this time period. So evaluate the extent to which Muslims and non-Muslims affected attitudes towards Islamic culture. So as these people are interacting with each other, how did that affect Islamic culture? The other thing that you're going to want to take a look at is you might end up discussing, well, it started out one way and then ended up another way, depending on where the documents take you. So another color I might use is, okay, I'm going to keep in mind that one region to another might have differences, or one time period to another might have differences, things like that. So what I would like for you to do is spend the rest of the day kind of going through the documents, taking a look at understanding them, reading them, writing notes to yourself, and starting to maybe organize how you're going to use them. I've provided this page. You can use it or not. It's just kind of a reference if you want to write notes to yourself. Here's how I'm going to use document 1. Here's how I'm going to use document 2. And then also kind of keep in mind, this is your rubric reminder of how you might throw other pieces of information in and say, okay, this document reminds me of this particular piece of Shia law, or the 5 pillars of Islam or something like that, and then, just writing some ideas to yourself. You can also do your historical contextualization, and you can also write your thesis in here. But what I'd like for you to do is by the end of today, or, before next class, if it takes you a little longer, I'd like you to analyze the documents and just kind of work on planning how you're going to write your essay. You don't actually have to write the essay yet, but I want you to make a plan for yourself on how you're going to use these documents. I've done the first 2 documents with you. I want you to do the other 5 documents either with a partner or just by yourself. It's your choice. I'm not going to be pushy on that, but I do want you to complete this. And you can discuss this with somebody. You can get ideas from each other, bounce ideas off each other. Mostly, I just want you to plan ahead on how am I going to use these documents and what kind of thesis might I come up with that answers my prompt. Okay, so thank you.